I just thought I'd make a quick video here on how to disassemble and clean the P10 series of the CZ pistols. You've got the P10F, P10C. F is full size, C is compact. They also have an S model. I think that stands for subcompact. But they all break down pretty much the same way and very similar to a Glock. So the first thing we want to do anytime we've got a firearm that we're going to be handling, especially indoors, not at the range, but anytime we're handling a pistol, you want to make sure you keep it pointed in a safe direction. And in this case, we're going to clear the pistol. The first thing we do, keep it pointed in a safe direction, keep my finger off the trigger. And then I have the magazine release right here. I'm going to drop the magazine first. So I'll press it, magazine falls right out. Also, we need to make sure these are clean. That'll be another video. Okay, so now I've got the magazine out, so that's the source of the ammo. That's the number one thing. The next thing you want to do is pull the slide back, look down in the chamber, make sure there's nothing in the chamber. Visualize it, make sure there's nothing there. So again, I'm going to check no magazine and nothing in the chamber. So this pistol is clear. Make sure you do it in that order. Do not rack the slide first and then drop the magazine. I've seen some catastrophic stuff happen with other people that got them in the wrong order, unfortunately. Okay, so now that we've got the pistol cleared, in order to take this apart, something else that's unique to this and some other pistols similar to this one is you're going to have to actually pull the trigger. So make sure it's in a safe direction. We know the pistol is clear, there's no ammo in it, so I'm going to pull the trigger. If you don't pull the trigger, you will not be able to get the slide off. The next step is we've got tabs here on each side. One here on this side, and an identical one here on this side. So we're going to have to take these and push them downward, but we can't do that with the slide in this position. In order to be able to push these tabs and release the slide, there's a couple ways you can do it. You can pull back slightly, about this far, and then you can push the tabs, or some people will just take the barrel, push it down. It takes a firm amount of force and then push the tabs. You can do it either way. I prefer to do it like this. I've got my thumb underneath the beaver tail, fingers here, a couple of them along the serrated slide here. Okay, then I pull it back about this far. I'm going to push the tabs down, hold them down, and release the slide at the same time. Now I push with my thumb while I'm still holding the tabs down. The slide comes right off. Okay, so now we've got the frame separated into the frame. We have the recoil spring here. To take the recoil spring off, I'm going to push from this end right here. I'm going to push this way and pull up. Doesn't take a whole lot of pressure. Then I'm going to lay that over to the side. And again, I'm kind of anal with some of this stuff. I like to keep things in order, so I'll put the spring there. And to get the barrel out, push it forward, tilt it up in the back, and then pull it straight back. And keep in mind, for those that aren't familiar, keep in mind the way this slide came out. This is the ramp, the feed ramp for the ammunition when it cycles. So you notice we brought it out of the slide this way. So when we put it back in, this ramp is going to be up when we put it back in. Okay, so I'm going to put this over to the side. And that is the basic disassembly. You can get more detailed, but for general cleaning, that's really about all you need to do. And it makes it really simple. They're very simple, but very, very reliable. I've always been impressed with the CZs and the Glocks with their reliability. Okay, so now we've got everything disassembled. We don't have any other ammunition in the area, so we're all safe. Some things you're going to need is you're going to need a bore brush and a rod. I prefer the brass ones. Not everyone does. Sometimes a pistol will come with a plastic bristle brush that you can use for the bore, and that's okay. Either one of them will work really well. We'll also need something, an attachment here for the rod afterwards to put patches in to run it down the barrel to get the solvent out in the carbon. Okay, I use Huppies. I think it's a really good product. I've had really good luck with this, and I'll use this as a solvent. Some people use Ballistol. I've had some. This is Ballistol, I'm not saying it's a bad product. There's people I know who are very avid shooters, and they swear by this. They think it's one of the greatest things in the world. But Ballistol makes things, in my mind, not exactly the best environment for cleaning off all the carbon and then lubricating it. This is supposed to be all in one. You spray it down and it works as a solvent. You wipe it down and then you spray it again, and it's supposed to act as a lubricant. I guess I'm just old school. I'm a dinosaur. But to me, I don't know how this knows when to stop being a solvent and when to start being a lubricant. If you spray it all on and it's all mixed together, to me it's like breaking the carbon loose while it's building up in your pistol and could potentially act as a lapping compound. Maybe I'm overthinking it. That's fine. Do what you want to. If this is easier for you and you have confidence in it, go ahead and do it. Personally, I just like doing the solvent. This stuff, I'll use the solvent first, and then this is called gun butter, the label's off of it, but this is a synthetic oil. It's got a nice little applicator, gets into places, otherwise it'd be a little difficult. So those are some of the things that you're going to need. I also use Q-tips to get into hard to reach places. Sometimes I'll have a plastic tool here that actually gets into the crevices with a patch. And sometimes I will use pipe cleaners. And there's good and bad about pipe cleaners. I use them to get in behind the extractor. You can see here on the left, there's an extractor right here. That's where it grabs a hold of the rim of the cartridge after it's been fired. Right there. The rim is underneath here, and it pulls it back. And then the shell is ejected as it comes back. So I can get this underneath there. It's one of the few things I can get under there comfortably and actually clean the carbon off underneath it. The problem is these things leave a lot of fuzz, so you've got to make sure you don't leave a lot of fuzz behind. So I'll get it up in there and just kind of work it back and forth to make sure it's clean. If you get too much carbon behind there over time, it can interfere with your extraction. So that's the reason I recommend you do that. So real quick here, just going to take my barrel. I've already put solvent on the bore brush, run it back and forth a few times, and I do it from this end, from the ramp, not from the front end. And the reason is it could damage the front end or the crown of your barrel. And some say that it will interfere with your accuracy and you could damage it on the end. So always when you're cleaning a firearm, try to, whenever you can. Some revolvers are difficult to do. You may have to use a different type of cleaner, like a snake, they call it. And you can do it that way, but I highly recommend you go from the back side, from the feeding end of it. Okay, so I've got that. Oh, something else I meant to mention, I've got a nylon brush here. Also got some other brushes that are brass for really hard caked on stuff, but I can't remember the last time I used it. I try to keep my pistols really clean. It never gets to that point. And I try to use them sparingly anyway. I don't want to do any damage to the pistol. Okay, so I'm going to take this brush and I'm going to put a little solvent on it, and I'm going to get around the ramp and right here where it feeds into the chamber, and any place else on here that's got any type of carbon buildup. Okay, now this one's ported, so I'll get in here and clean the port area. Now once I've got solvent on it, I'm going to lay it over to the side and just let it kind of soak, let the solvent do its job. I don't do anything with a spring as far as solvent or oil goes, lubrication. I find that if I just wipe it down with a dry cloth, it's been very sufficient. And we'll be replacing these from time to time, not very often, but I seldom get much buildup on them. If I put oil or grease or anything on this, there's a chance it'll collect lint or dust or something and not be as effective. So I just kind of dry clean it, so to speak. Okay. So now I'm just going to take my time on the slide here. There's a few areas here. You got the inside of the rail here where it mates up to the frame. Just clean in there with the brush on both sides. I try to do all this in the same order each time. It just helps me to keep from missing things. I don't want to get a lot of solvent back here, or any, if I can help it, down in here where it just collects and I can't get it out. If there's carbon in there, there's a way to take the back plate off and remove some of this stuff and do some deep cleaning, but ordinarily you don't really need to do that on this back end. Okay. Right here you've got the bolt face where the striker comes out, or some people call it the firing pin. So I'll just clean that really well. It's carbon all around it, but it's not real bad. Okay. Then I'll move on to the frame. And again, I don't want to get it to where it collects here in all these little crevices and stuff. So I'll sometimes wipe my brush off and just get minimum amount of solvent that I need to get the job done. Because really, all I'm really wanting to do is remove any dirt, debris, carbon. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Again, I'm going to lay this over to the side. So I'm pretty much done with that. Now what I do is I just go back over to the side here where I began. And this time I'm going to start with the recoil spring. I'm just going to take it and just kind of wipe it down. And you'll see there's not a lot. There's a little carbon on the end, but not a lot. I probably put last range count was probably about roughly 200 rounds. There's not a lot there, but I'm really big on keeping my pistols clean, especially if I carry them for self-defense. If I'm carrying for self-defense, then if I have problems with them during the real situation, it won't be because it's dirty. And I know you don't have to clean them every single time, but I'm just that way. Okay, I'll take the next one, which is the barrel, wipe it down, get into the ported area here, and just wipe down the outside as much as I can, because the next step, and see how the ramp here is starting to wear, because this is a relatively new gun. I haven't had a lot of rounds through this one, and so the dark portion is starting to wear off a little bit. Okay, so I'll do that. Now what I'm going to do is take the bore brush off, and I'm going to put this on. This is an adapter for the patches. Now I know from experience with this size patch, all I need is one patch for a 9mm, which is what this is. For 45 ACP, it usually takes 2 patches, depending on the pistol I've got. Again, I'm going to approach from the back. I'm going to push it through. You can see the carbon that I pushed out that the solvent released, so I'm going to push it through a few times. And you can see it's pretty dirty, not real bad. I've seen them a lot worse. And then from there, one good thing about cleaning them often is it gives you a chance not just to clean the pistol, but to also inspect it. Make sure there's no damage been done to it. I like to look down into the barrel, put something white behind it so I can see, reflects off the sides, just to see if there's anything that looks abnormal. Obviously no obstructions or anything. Okay, but it gives us a chance, especially with the slide, the extractor, all that, to take a look and make sure they look like they are supposed to look, that they're not chipped, broken, worn, and over time they will. Just like any tool, you wear it down with use, even though these are extremely durable. Most pistols are, especially the modern ones. Very durable. Okay, so I'm going to wipe this down, wiping the bolt face, wiping the rails here, the inside rails. Okay, and you can see I still got some shiny stuff. Tell me I got some solvent there. That's where I'm going to use the Q-tip to get down in there. Like this. And if there's any down in here, definitely I want to try to soak it up with this. But it's pretty dry. I didn't really expose it much to the solvent. Okay. Okay, looks good. I inspect the sights to make sure they're still in one piece. You'd be surprised with some sights. These are durable. These are metal sights that CZ is known for. But there's some other manufacturers that have plastic sights, and you'd be surprised that even though they're durable, very durable, they can get chipped or broken easier than the metal ones. So it's always good to inspect them. Okay, so I feel pretty satisfied with this. Everything looks like it's in the proper place, so I'm going to put this right here. Then I'll move on to the frame. Do the same thing. I'm going to wipe it down as much as I can. I like to use these microfiber cloths. They seem to work really well because they do have these little textured sides to it. It does get down into crevices pretty well. Sometimes I'll still need to use patches to get down in the small areas. Okay. So again, I'm going to take Q-tips. I'm going to get down in here because it does get dirty down in this part here, as you can tell, and over in here. And for new shooters, you'll find, you know, the nomenclature and stuff of all these parts and pieces, but I won't cover them all right now. Just one more thing to remember. Okay, so inspect all this. All right. So as far as I can tell, it looks clean. I'm going to look at it one more time. So again, I know I've got this clean. Got the barrel clean. Everything looks good there. No defects that I'm aware of. Slide looks good. No defects that I can tell. Put that there. And same thing with the frame. Looks good. I do want to get some of it off the sides here. Well, another thing to be careful of too while you're doing this, if you have a red dot mounted to your slide, be cognizant of that. You don't want to get solvent on the glass. It may happen from time to time. Just make sure you wipe it off quickly. Don't leave it sitting there. Okay, so now it's only a matter of getting some lubrication on it and putting it back together. So here's how we're going to do it. We're just going to go pretty much in reverse order. So the first thing I'm going to do is I want to take the slide. I want to get the barrel in it. So this is the way I took it out in this direction. And remember what I said, the ramp goes up, okay? But before I do that, there's a couple things I want to do. I'm going to oil the slide, and the way I'm going to do that is, this applicator, like I say, makes it easier for gun butter, but I just put a fine bead. You don't have to put a lot. I put a really fine bead on the inside of each rail on the slide, okay? And then right here. And you'll see this over time with pistols or any firearm. The parts that are wearing are shiny. This hasn't had enough rounds through it to make this really shiny. But I will put some there. I'll also put some up here. You can see where it's kind of worn here, just because of the action of the pistol. But I'll put this probably a little bit too much, honestly. The only exception to lubricating more I found is with 1911s. They tend to want to run wetter with more lubricant to run efficiently, typically. Okay, so I've got the slide. Now I'm going to take the barrel, and even though I'm going to put a thin coat on it all over, I'm going to put it right here where this recoil spring butts up against, because that's where it's going to be rubbing some. But also, this is part of the locking mechanism as part of the operation. So I'm going to put a light coat over the entire barrel, like this. like I say, just a light coat. You really don't need a whole lot. Okay, so now I'm going to have the ramp up. I'm going to tilt it slightly, put it in toward the front end, and then let the barrel fall in kind of naturally. And I'll push it from this end so that it butts completely up against the bolt face right there. Now I'm taking the recoil spring, I'm going to put it in, and it only goes in one way. And you'll see this is a small end, and that's what fits up here on the barrel exit end, the muzzle end. Okay, this one's larger, and so it's going to go right here against there. So, but to get it there, I have to put this into a little recessed area, and then I'll press this forward and push down at the same time, and it doesn't really take much pressure at all. And then I center it, okay, like that. All right, so now our slide is together. All right, so I meant to put a dab of oil right there because it does, I mean a dab, because it does wear right there. Okay, so I'm going to set that over the side. And again, this is a real good example right here. Where I tell you that parts wear, there's not that many rounds through this, but you can see right here where it's going from black to shiny in some areas. And these are the typical areas where that happens on the frame itself, because that's where it's rubbing the most. That you definitely want to get a little bit of oil on those areas, because that is a wear area. It's pretty obvious. Okay. Now sometimes, depending, I may put a small bead on here, but I shouldn't need too much because I've already oiled the slide itself to mitigate that. So that should work pretty well. Okay. All right, so we've got all that taken care of. Everything's oiled, cleaned, oiled. So now we're going to put it back together. So if you notice here, this is part of the, right here on the frame is the part of the frame that fits and mates onto the slide right here. And so I'm going to mate it up just like that and keep it flat. Make sure this recoil spring is down a little bit on and fully seated against that. So now once I get there, I'm going to push it back slowly like this. And once I get there, I'm going to pull it all the way back and then let it go, or let it go forward. And now it locks in place on its own. You don't have to do anything with the tabs. Once you pull it back, it automatically resets and locks it in place. Now, once we have that done, I do a function check. And it's really pretty simple for most pistols. For this particular pistol, what I'll do is I do a function check. I make sure the slide is working properly, okay? And then I will, after I do it a few times, kind of get the oil to disperse in different areas, I'm going to point it in a safe direction. Again, we know it's clear, and so I'm going to press the trigger. And now, while I still have the trigger pressed, I'm going to release it slowly. I'm going to rack the slide, and I'm going to release it slowly until you hear that click. Sometimes you can't hear a click, but you can feel it. That's called the reset point. At this point, I should be able to pull the trigger back and it fires again. I don't have to let my finger completely off the trigger. In other words, I don't have to do this and let it come all the way back. I can just pull the trigger, rack the slide, and then just come back to the reset point and then pull the trigger again. Okay, and that is the function check. One thing I do encourage you to do is to clean the magazines from time to time. Just in a short amount of time I spent at the range, it started to accumulate quite a bit of carbon. That's for another video. I won't belabor it here, but people neglect the magazines a lot, and I highly recommend you find out how to take them apart and clean them thoroughly from time to time so that they function properly. This could be the source of one of the major sources of malfunctions, is the magazine not working properly. And the last thing I do for a function check, put the magazine in, I'll put the slide back. Yep, it works. Holds the slide back because it's empty. I'm going to take the slide release, and I'm not going to let it slam forward. I don't like doing that. I'm going to pull the slide back and then push it down, let it go forward, and then I'm going to release the magazine, make sure it works, make sure I didn't do anything anything to it. There are times when I'll put a rag up into the magazine well to wipe it out if it looks like it may be dirty. Usually they're pretty clean. Okay, that pretty much takes care of it. So if you got any questions, I suggest you check other YouTube channels. There's some people out there much better than I am, much more knowledgeable than I am. And but I've been doing this now since I see 1973 with different kinds of pistols, and this is just my preferred method. Anyway, stay safe, practice often, practice smart, and I'll see you later. Thanks.